Welcome to episode 5 of In Deep with Dan. Before we get to this week's guest, a special shout out to my listeners down in the Florida Panhandle, Georgia, and the Carolinas. I'm so sorry for Hurricane Michael, what happened down there. It's terrible. It's just terrible. And my heart goes out to you and your families in your time of trying to put your lives back together here. As I record this, it is Sunday evening, the first Sunday past the storm, and I wish you well. My guest today is Chris Koterba, who is no stranger to disaster preparedness. He's many things, including an educator of the public on disaster preparedness through his organization to which he belongs called Zombie Squad. So we will be getting to him in a few moments. Many other things Chris does as well, and we will be talking about that. So what else? This past weekend, and I apologize, I am losing my voice. I've been waking up this weekend with a headache, sinus issues, usual fall in Wisconsin stuff. The generic Zyrtec no longer works, and it's all going crazy with dry air and lots of rain and then cold and the usual. It's what I signed up for by being born here and not leaving. So there we go. Let's see, the weekend. Saturday was amazing. I drove to Madison and spent the day with my eldest daughter at university. There were cafes involved and talking, lots of coffee, tea, laughing. Her sorority had its dad's day, so we went to the Memorial Union and had party food, played a trivia game, and I got to meet other dads. Then we went on a bit of a pub crawl. It was an away game day for the UW Wisconsin Badgers, so the bars were pretty full. We ended up at a bar called Wando's that serves drinks in fish bowls, so that is their gimmick. There were a lot of fish bowls around. My daughter helped her friends empty one of them. I think it's vodka and Sprite with some kind of blue. Maybe it's blue vodka. Probably is. I don't know. I didn't have any of it. Looked good. Looked very refreshing. When my daughter prepares to go out, she's very focused. It's very planned and strategic. So she and I went to one bar. Her friends and their dads went to other bars, all looking for open tables. We found one at Wando's, and my daughter contacted her friends. They came over. We hung out. I got to talk to those dads and her friends, and also a mom came along. That was cool. I might have ended up with a new subscriber to the show. So aside from a great night, there was an uptick in downloads related to that night. So that was awesome. So that was great. I had a good night there and headed back to my city at the end of the night. Sunday, earlier today, my 13-year-old daughter and my wife and I drove back to Madison, picked up my 2 university daughters, and went out to eat with my wife's parents at the Olive Garden. I had soup and coffee. It was a good time. And we were celebrating my daughter's 13th birthday with her grandparents, so that was fun. Speaking of family, I think aside from my niece up in Alaska, and maybe her mom, my sister up there, I don't think anyone in my extended family has listened to my show or has any inclination to do so. That's okay. It's my thing. I'm okay with that. After I mentioned I have a show, I kind of experienced a communications blackout on the family side. I think they worry I'm going to bully them into listening. I won't. It's all good. Of course, why I'm saying that here is kind of strange now that I think about it, because the only possible folks who could get this message are you listeners and not the non-listeners, but perhaps I should send this message as a telegram to them instead. Or maybe their friends will listen and say, "Hey, your brother called you out for not listening to his show." And they'll be all like, "So, I don't want to listen to his show. I didn't pick my family." That kind of stuff. That sounds exactly like what my family would say. Okay, they wouldn't do that. Hey, a big shout out to our new listeners in the U.S., as well as Great Britain, Greece, and Poland. Great Britain, Greece, and Poland. That is so cool. Home of let's see, Doctor Who, Socrates, and Marie Curie, I guess in that order. That's very cool. I understand Doctor Who may not be real, but I'm not going to say that as a fact. Anyway, that's cool. My favorite restaurants are Greek, not English. Sorry, British. But I do love English beer. I don't know if I've ever had Greek beer. I've had Polish beer, come to think of it. Anyway, yeah, the word seems to be spreading about the show. So if you would, make a point to tell even just one other person about the show this week. Send them a link if you like. Just show them, make them take a picture of my logo. That would be cool. If it's easier, send them a link to the website, indeepwithdan.com, or head to the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/indeepwithdanpodcast. That's In Deep with Dan and the word podcast on the end. And then share that with your friends. It helps a lot. So I really appreciate it. All right, as for the guest, it is the month of October, which in the United States means it's Halloween time. And what better time to talk with Chris Koterba? Among other things, he is a member of Zombie Squad, a disaster preparedness group that uses the zombie paradigm to educate people on being prepared for disasters, natural or otherwise. Chris is also a blacksmith, a drummer, a guitarist, a new husband. I'm counting on my fingers because he does so many things. He's probably a superhero or an organ donor. I don't know. We didn't quite get to those last two, but hopefully we will. Our chat ran for nearly 2 hours, so in the interest of keeping my episodes around an hour, this will be part 1 of our talk, and then I will air part 2 at a later date. I got to get you your Koterba in easy-to-consume doses. Don't want you to OD on Chris. It would be very easy to do. He and I had a great, easy talk. I did not see the 1 hour mark come and go, and I vaguely realized that the 2 hour mark was quickly approaching when I got a text message that, hey, in 5 minutes I had another appointment. So yeah, so we will be putting part 2 of our chat out at a later date. But for now, here is part 1. Very interesting guy. So all right, let's get in deep with Mr. Chris Koterba. Well, hey, welcome, and thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. When I read about it, I was intrigued, and I've listened a little bit. Unfortunately for listening to things, my commute is quite small.
Yeah.
But fortunately for every other part of my life, it is quite small. It's only like 15 minutes. So.
Yeah, that's nice. I miss that. I used to work in Brookfield and live in Waukesha, and now I work down on the Illinois-Wisconsin border. So my life is basically either podcasts or, listening to them, or in the summer riding my motorcycle and having some me time. There's the upside, but the downside is, of course, early, late, that kind of stuff.
But yeah, no, I've been looking forward to it. I kind of went through my mind, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever been, other than for a couple of spots for the band for Friday Night Live over the years. I don't think I've been interviewed before. So this is, other than like getting a job or if I was in a traffic accident or something, But I haven't really been interviewed, so I'm looking forward to this. I'm curious as to how it's going to play out. So
yeah, good. Well, I loved your suggestion list of topics because basically to me, you're kind of like the modern Renaissance man. You've got you're the musician, you're the artisan, you're the audio engineer. So, like you said, you just got married, and plus you've got the emergency preparedness thing.
Yeah,
love to talk about any and all of that stuff. Definitely.
Yeah, it's been quite a year. I mean, I've been telling people it's my Control-Alt-Delete on life year, because in the course of 2018, I bought a house, I quit a job after being there for 22 years to take another job, and I got married to my wonderful wife, and I got baptized all in the same year.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah.
In addition to every other day life, like working and paying bills and going to events and doing stuff with the disaster preparedness group. So it's quite a life. I haven't had a whole lot of time to do blacksmithing, but I've been getting ideas together and assembling materials and stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting more of that done next year with some special things I'm going to finish up this year.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's before I met my wife, it was I didn't like to have idle time, because then it would just sit there and be in my brain. Mm-hmm. And well, it's my brain, it's my favorite brain, and it allows me to do some really wonderful things. Sometimes it gets the best of me, and so I found the best thing to do was to keep busy, which means the minute anyone said, "Hey, you want to try this?" I would be, "Yeah, let's do that." So that's how you end up being in 2 bands and being in hiking and camping and doing all these things all in the same lifetime.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's interesting, you only have a few seconds on the planet, in comparison to the planet itself. So I want to cram as much into that life as I can.
Yeah, I appreciate that attitude. It's not, some people might say we make these choices and then we're stuck with them, and then we go down only this one road, and gee, what about the road not taken? As long as you're on a road, there's really only one road you can be on at any given moment. As long as you're always on a road, I think is what you're saying, you can make the most of the time. And I totally believe that.
I kind of like to, what do you say, maybe randomly take exits off the main road to check out little towns on the side of that road.
Oh, sure.
I've got an obvious horizon, and that's that's off in the distance. But in the meantime, I'm meeting all these wonderful people, some becoming significantly important to me, and but I'm seeing all these things, and rather than doing the wake up, kiss the wife goodbye, go to work, come home, have dinner, go to bed, repeat. There's no reason you can't cram more stuff into there. We don't have kids. We're not planning on having kids. It was never really something that I figured would fit into my life. Mm-hmm. I used to say I have a hard enough time keeping my person in check, let alone a miniature version of me and someone else. So
sure.
It's just kind of let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. I think from my many friends and relatives and who don't have kids, I think the hardest part of not having kids is all the, is dealing with the bullshit from people who wonder why you don't have kids. To me, it's always, and I had to be talked into having kids. I love my kids, but I was always like, hey, I was kind of a, zero footprint kind of guy with, there are plenty of people who can, the human race as a whole is increasing in numbers. I think it's okay without me. And there is a certain amount of selfishness, not in a bad way, of having a kid if one has the ability and the means to choose whether or not they're having a kid. And that is to say, sometimes people will say, well, it's really selfish of you not to have a kid. And my response was always, well, wait a minute here. That kid does not exist. It's a hypothetical. It's an idea. So there's really nothing selfish about not creating a person. But, I'm all for kids, for people who want to have them. I'm all for people who don't want to have them, not having them. It's great. You can be an uncle. You can be a friend of a person with kids if you want the exposure to kids and all that kind of thing. So
and the thing is, this has become quite a bit more visible now that I'm married, or even when I was just dating my wife. you and me, guys, we get off real easy with that. I mean, you might get the occasional relative going, well, where are the grandkids? And, you get to say, I don't know, somewhere. Someone's got them. But, the pressure and the ostracizing? What's the active word for ostracized?
Yeah, to be ostracized. Ostrich, to be an ostrich. There we go.
Be an ostrich without sticking your head in the sand.
Ostracizing.
The ostracizing that women undergo is terrible.
Oh yeah.
It's it's almost like if you're not, by the time you're 35 or 40 nowadays, especially in the Midwest, if you don't have one or two kids hanging off you, what is your problem? What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
And then you get into a relationship. Everybody immediately thinks, okay, well, there's the date, there's the marriage, where's the kids? Well, we're not having kids. So that's fine. People come to terms with that, but you're still forced to try to figure out how to socialize in an environment where everybody your age has kids. And that's what they want to talk about is the kids and soccer and that. And you're like, I got a cat.
Right.
I'd like to get a dog. That's about the extent of what I can contribute to this conversation.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating. So,
and I'm in the position now. I have 2 in college and 1 in middle school. I don't have little kids anymore, so I'm moving into the portion of life where I am meeting people who are either beyond kids or beyond the child years, or they didn't have kids or want kids, but now we're all arriving back at that moment where now we have a lot more in common because my day is not diapers. Or anything like that. It's all basically, my 13-year-old is very adult-like, so we can have adult conversations. So it's not like I'm, talking baby talk at home and have things like that to talk about either, or, or familiar with kids shows anymore. I have no idea. So it's kind of, I'm not saying I've emerged from a prison sentence, Chris, but I am saying I dipped off that road for a bit, had a great time on that journey, and now I'm back again, having to define myself as an individual, not just a co-parent, and it's great. And so I'm sort of coming into this realization, realization that you've had all along, that, hey, there's so much fun stuff to do. Pick something, do it, go do something else, come back, do the other thing. It's a blast.
That's true. That's a good observation. I mean, prior to being, my wife's name is Jessie, and that's about as far as I want to go with that. But
sure.
Prior to being with her, I didn't have pets. I didn't even have plants. I knocked over a plastic cactus. So I essentially killed plastic plants. I didn't have anything that relied on me at home. So I was able to do whatever I want, whenever I wanted. So for me to, sit here and go on about how, if there's an opportunity, you should just go for it. That's really easy for me to say that because I chose to be very single in that regard. There was nobody relying on me, short of my folks, and they're mostly self-independent, still.
Oh, great! Yeah.
So that is a point that often doesn't occur to me, that a lot of people don't have the freedom just on, I'm gonna learn blacksmithing, or I'm gonna start a podcast.
Right.
I can't imagine trying to have a recording studio or a podcast like this with kids, even teenagers, aside from really adult ones, apparently like yours are. There's this thing down in the basement that Dad does, and it's really interesting because it kind of looks like MTV, or what MTV used to be.
And I want to go play with those knobs and fiddle with them while he's not there.
I saw that singer once grab the thing and just swing it around above his head. That must be fun.
Roger Daltrey, Daddy.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever I'd have people visit my apartment and I knew they were bringing their kids, man, every guitar got put away.
Oh, I bet.
Anything. Yeah, I had to scramble to get my apartment kid-proof, and I didn't have that a lot because most of the time I just went to them. It's easier for them. It's easier on me,
Yeah.
I'll come to your environment and adapt rather than you try to adapt to mine,
Well, it's also easier for one guy to get in a car than to, have 4 people pile in and then there's vomit all over the place and
wrangle up the kids and all the gear and stuff. It's an expedition. Good gracious.
Yeah.
It's an expedition just to get, over to Walmart.
Yeah. And then at 2 a.m, you get a knock on your door and somebody's looking for the forgotten teddy bear from earlier in the day. So it's never a good thing. Luckily, my kids were not intrusive, but I had 3 girls, and there is a lot to be said about early intelligence of kids. The girls being, I'm just going to say it, I'm probably going to piss people off, but that's okay. The girls seem to get it much more quickly from the friends that I have, in watching the friends I have that have little boys, because they are just, climbing the walls, literally. I mean, the sticky little fingers, they're climbing up. Looks like a Japanese horror movie. They're shaking their heads.
In truth, that's kind of what just kids in general are to me as a Japanese horror film.
Fair enough.
Because I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the thing to happen. I know what's going to happen. There's a group of kids, inevitably something horrible is going to happen.
And either their eyes are going to turn black and goo is going to come out, or just like very bright blue.
Yeah. Or just, piercing shrieking that makes any concert just seem like a whisper,
Yeah.
It's, more than once I've heard kids, just completely lose it at a store, and I'll be like on the other side of the building, and it's like they're in the aisle next to me, and it's impressive as a person who's a big fan of heavy metal and listen to some really aggressive, screamy vocals.
Oh, yeah.
I know when I hear some really great pipes, and some of these kids are just born to be like the next Slayer.
Yeah,
they're just ready to go.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes their parents are very encouraging of that. Sometimes they'll put out a little, well, you can just keep doing that. And then they'll do that. So that's good. Or maybe they'll get a reward for doing that, like a box of Twinkies or something. That's always a good reward system to train your little Slayer front man.
Well, I tell you what, give a kid who's interested in heavy metal a bunch of sugar. Oh, that's outstanding. But, when I was younger and, a lot more closed-minded about a whole variety of topics, I'd be the guy just grumbling, oh, why don't you take the kid outside, blah, blah, blah. And I've matured. I've grown up. Well, okay, I've grown up. I don't know if I've matured very much, but I've very much grasped onto the idea of I don't know what kind of boots they're walking in, so we're just going to leave judgment alone.
Yeah.
Let them, if you can help. If not, don't make it worse. I don't need to sit and give them dirty looks. They're having a rough time as it is. They don't need me being a jerk about it.
Yeah, so. And they do need me to be that because I have the experience, so I can recognize whether they're doing the right thing and doing some tough love. I don't mind a noisy kid in a restaurant if the parent is actually performing parental techniques that they bothered to learn, either by reading a book or maybe talking to some good parent friends that they consider to be good parents. But if the kid is standing on a chair or standing in the booth, I'm like, if I'd done that, that old thing, because I'm an old guy now. If I'd done that, I'd have been on my face on the floor. I'd have been sitting in the car for the rest of the meal. Some shit would have gone down.
You want to talk about old guy, dude? I wear suspenders with a belt, okay? I am the old guy. I've got a yard now. I can finally stand out in front, shake my fist.
Nice.
I don't.
Get out of my trees.
I don't, because my neighbors are so far pretty wonderful. I haven't met very many of them, so that could be why they're wonderful. But I don't know what they think of me. I hope that I haven't turned anybody off. But I'm fairly quiet, keep to myself. We're not partiers. Other than the people that helped us move in, we haven't had anybody over yet because, well, everything's in boxes. I only bought the house a few months ago.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations. That's cool. Yeah. Are you in the country, in the city?
Oh, we're in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay. Great.
There's a splinter of Milwaukee that slides up between the cheeks of West Dallas and Wauwatosa, and we are right in that little area. So
nice.
We can officially be in Milwaukee, fly a Milwaukee flag, and so it's quite a change for me, who grew up literally on a dirt road out in rural Waukesha.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's all right. I mean, I've lived in a variety of apartments and stuff. I lived right on Main Street in Waukesha, so traffic noise is somewhat comforting. It lets me know that the zombie apocalypse has not happened yet.
Right.
And or at least it's, it's there. There's still a
military
chance.
vehicles. Could be military vehicles, but you probably recognize the sound of Jeeps. And
Jeeps and choppers and stuff like that.
Yeah, my favorite collectivo is over on, what is that, West Wisconsin in Tosa there.
Oh, yeah, right on the corner there?
Yeah.
That one that's, it's got the fire pit outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really nice place.
Yeah, it was chilly the last, I was there editing an episode a couple of weeks ago, and my wife went with me. I had the earbuds in, and she said, "Oh, we could have been out there because we'd forgotten it was lighted up out there."
Oh yeah.
And just as she said that, it just started pouring rain because that's all it does now. But
oh man, I know it's I'm a big fan of British humor and stuff like that. But if I wanted England, I would go and visit England,
right?
Or Seattle. I finally given in and acknowledged that there are some good bands that came out of Seattle. Because I was
you were a holdout.
I was a holdout.
Yeah.
I'd finally gotten the long hair when Kurt Cobain came in and messed it all up. The heavy metal, Ozzy Osbourne mane of hair.
Sure.
Finally got that going in high school, and then then this guy in the flannel and ripped jeans that I had been wearing last year and wasn't cool. He's all of a sudden he's the one that's, oh man, I was so upset. So
yeah.
I didn't boycott, but I was grumpy old man about it for quite a long time.
Sure.
But, that and finding performances, I can't remember what radio station, I think it's an internet radio station or something like that. They have artists come in and they do covers of songs. Like they had Imagine Dragons do a cover of Stand By Me, which was just phenomenal. The singing was outstanding. The music was great. They played actual instruments. It wasn't just, it
wasn't EDM or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't whatever Imagine Dragons is, which they have like 2 or 3 songs that I really kind of dig, and then the other stuff it doesn't turn me off. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same way about those guys.
But what they did, Radioactive is the song I was thinking of. But no,
by the Firm? From
no, from Imagine Dragons.
Oh, they're actual. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, that was. So, no, they did a cover of Stand By Me, and they played guitars, and I think the drummer had like an electronic pad that he was using. But it was great. But the thing that really caught me was Chris Cornell had an acoustic version. It was him with an acoustic guitar, and he was accompanied by a couple of cellists, and he did Nothing Compares to You, the Prince song that Sinead O'Connor made famous.
Sure.
In the early 90s or late 80s.
Yeah.
And, oh man, prior to that, Chris's voice was a little screechy, and this is from a Megadeth fan, I talk about screechy nasally voices, but, I didn't really get it, but, watching and listening to him do that, wow, really caught me. So I had to go back and start listening to some more live performances, and now I understand what everybody's been raving about.
Yeah, so, that guy, yeah, there was something about him. And I was late to the party there too. And actually, I was kind of that way a little bit less, but with Pearl Jam until I heard Eddie Vedder's ukulele album.
He's got a ukulele album?
Yeah, and it's amazing. And then so I started going back and hitting the old stuff, and then I realized, he was like 18 when he wrote like their first album, which went like every song on it is a hit, like Jeremy and all that stuff. And he brought all that to the up from L.A. He brought it up to Seattle for the audition to get in the band.
Yeah, I learned. I had a friend of mine that's just a maniacal Pearl Jam fan, and I was iffy. I like Jeremy quite a bit because I like storytelling and lyrics.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Definitely.
And so I watched the documentary they made here a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, and, Pearl Jam 20, I think it was called.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I was quite astounded to find out that they had sent just the music to him, and he kind of wrote all the lyrics and stuff like remote, or did it? It was something where the music was already done. I think it had to do with like I think they had a band member pass away or something. And oh my gosh, I'm stumbling around here. I'm sorry to anybody who is righteously offended that I don't know this knowledge, but I've been vocal about my disregard for Pearl Jam's cover of Last Kiss, which is a 60s tune, I think. About a guy and his girl in a car accident. You know, they did a cover of it, and I don't know why they did this cover, but it seemed like they played it really slow, and it just grated on me, because when I was in a cover band many years ago, we did that song, and to hear it like slowed, it was like they put a weight on a record back when you could use,
yeah, and
it would slow the record, the revolutions down, so it would play a little slower.
Yeah,
you know, and at the end there's like an ooh part, and it's dreadful for me. To the point, well, of course, and I said something in the shop, because I work with mechanics, and you don't show weakness in front of mechanics, because they will go, oh, you don't like that? Okay, cool, we're going to play this all the time.
That's great.
Before I actually sat down and paid attention to the lyrics, there's a country artist whose name escapes me. I could probably look it up, but I want to say Toby Keith, but I don't think that's right. Did a song called Red Solo Cup. And he wrote a little love song about the little plastic cups like you buy for parties.
Sure.
And
I have 2 college daughters. I know those cups very well.
Oh, yes. Okay, so he wrote a song about it, and it's a catchy tune, and it's a silly tune. And I spent more than half my life writing songs, trying to do something in music, and this guy comes along and on a bus records this song that is everywhere. And I am incensed because I can't let things go sometimes.
Yeah, right.
So I let it was playing in the shop, and I just let off with a silly barrage of obscenities. And the guys are like, oh, you don't like that song? I'm like, oh.
Here we go.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yep. They played it for about an hour and a half. I don't even know how many times the song went through. It was like the other mechanics were starting to go, okay.
Enough. Yeah.
I want to say they were better than 20 times through the song.
Wow. Can you listen to it anymore, or is it still,
The only thing this is, growing up I grew up as a fat left-handed asthmatic kid. So when it came to teasing, I'm no stranger to it, and you learn very young, well, hopefully you learn very young, that if you take that teasing and kind of run with it, everybody gets bored with it,
Yeah.
So like, oh, you're a fat kid. I'm like, I sure am. Wow, 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 wow. Look at this. They go, oh, well, that's not funny anymore. He's not upset.
Yeah.
So they move on,
Right.
And hopefully we're slowly evolving into a society where that's going to be a little less prevalent.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, I learned, just to run with it. So I sat down and listened to the song and listened to the lyrics, and they're very clever lyrics. They're very clever lyrics, and it is a cute little tune. It's just an earworm, because the guy's good at what he does. That's why he's famous.
Right.
He writes songs, or at least records songs that are very catchy. And so after that, come on. I'd be like, oh, hey, haha, they're playing the song that used to upset me. Rock on. Hey, you want to turn it up a little bit? So, and then that lost all its fun. So they waited for something else to show up, and it did. I let slip about something else, and that became the new thing to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, with me, you're talking about songs with lyrics. In my normal life, I don't really cry. It's not a man thing so much as it's just not my thing. Mm-hmm. But when I hear a very great song, a very well-crafted song, or if I see a movie and I'm thinking, man, the editing, I mean, I get down and dirty like, oh, man, the editing in this movie is so good, or the photography, or Breaking Bad, I'm like, oh, I can't believe they were able to write a plot like that. I mean, and the acting too, but it's more about the talent side of it. It's hard for me to talk. Like I'll hear something come on, and then I'll start swallowing. I'm doing it now. I'll swallow, and I'll turn toward my wife or kid and wanting to tell them the story of the thing. Like, hey, this song is about a, and then I take my glasses off and I'm got something in my eye. Hold on. Oh, I got something in my throat.
So glad I'm not alone.
Oh
my
no,
gosh.
it's how I live.
I'll tell you what.
Close to the surface, man.
When we were working on, when we were trying to figure out music to have at the wedding, someone suggested Grace. Grace, what's that song? It's well locked in a cabinet in the back of my brain, so as to not
Grace Under Pressure by Rush.
No. Okay. Amazing Grace. There it is. Thank you.
That one.
Oh man. Oh,
one of the lesser known tunes.
Yeah.
Than
I'll
Rush.
tell you. Well, then, yeah. It is definitely in the shadow of Geddy Lee and the trio from Canada. But yeah, that song, man. I don't remember what it was. That might be a lie, or not a lie, but a half truth. I think I was watching the behind the music back when VHS or VH1 used to do stuff related to music, other than reality love circle shows or whatever.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, they used to do that.
Yeah, back long ago in the past. They did a behind the music on Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he's one of the primary influences for me on guitar. If you listen to if you were to listen to me play guitar and break down influences, you'd find elements of Stevie Ray Vaughan, some Brian Setzer, and any sort of general heavy metal.
Okay, sure.
Those were kind of and some B.B. King, at least with phrasing. But so it came to the point where they were talking about his crash in East Troy over there, and his funeral, and it was Bonnie Raitt, I think, and someone else. They were singing Amazing Grace, and they cut to a picture of a footage of his wife start to cry. And,
oh, jeez.
It's all done. All done.
Start to lose it.
From that on, that song, or if you get a song that's where there's really good harmony, or you get a whole group of people singing together. Oh man!
Oh yeah, you should see Clapton singing "Will I See You in Heaven" or whatever to a reporter.
Tears in Heaven?
Yeah, Tears in Heaven, and it was the first time he ever performed it, even prior to out where anybody saw it. He hadn't even recorded it yet. Oh, wow. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
And so this woman is interviewing him, and he picks up his guitar and he sings that, and it's like, okay, and how are you not supposed to cry? After his 3-year-old toppled out a window,
Right.
Yeah, it's just crazy power.
It is. Here's a ridiculous example of this phenomenon. The group, emergency preparedness group I belong to, is a group called Zombie Squad. It was started in St. Louis, and it was a group of people sitting in a bar watching horror movies, specifically zombie movies, and going, "That's not how you survive. What are you doing? What are you doing? You don't need that. You need this." And they, from that night, grew into an organization that helps educate and get people interested in disaster and emergency preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
And there are chapters all across America. I think there's a chapter in Canada, and I think there might have been some in other countries, but they may have gone dormant recently.
Are they no longer answering the shortwave?
No, they're just not fulfilling the duties of an active chapter. So they might get together, but they're not. Yeah.
I'll try again at the same time tomorrow night, guys. Okay,
good reference. Nice reference.
Yeah, thank you.
You were referencing Walking Dead, right?
Of course.
Okay, good. That was a show that... Yeah, early. That was a show that was, we're going to do this now? Oh, okay, well, never mind. Oh, goodness. Really? Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Are you playing Pong?
I am not playing Pong.
I love that.
I am not really a gaming person.
I know. I didn't mean to whip out the gaming reference, because I'm not either. I'm a casual gamer. And what that means is I fancy myself a gamer, and I buy them, and then I look at them, and then every third one I install, and then I watch the splash screen when it comes up, mm-hmm. and then I come in here and I do something else usually. So because I say I just don't have the time. I can't dump 100 hours in there. But this is not about me, Chris. I was very interested in Zombie Squad.
Oh, right.
And then, so I'll take you back.
Ridiculous cell phone interrupted everything. How rude.
Maybe that was the message. Okay, I'll shut up.
Could have been. It could have been.
Yeah.
I doubt it, though, because it was tagged scam likely, so it was probably one of those phone calls that I didn't need to take anyway.
Yeah, good phone.
Well, it took some time, deciphering which calls were which, and then I labeled them. But
yeah.
At any rate, started in St. Louis, and about 4 or 5 years after it was created, I discovered it on the internet and joined and have been a member ever since. And they have an annual week-long backpack camping trip down in Missouri in the foothills of are those the Ozarks? I think they're the Ozarks.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so in the foothills of the Ozarks, so we can technically say we're sleeping on a mountain. And it's 45 degrees the whole time, and rocks and trees and weird ticks and no electricity and no bathrooms, no nothing. And it's you living out of your backpack and hanging out. But
so basically, it sounds really cool.
It's really cool. The first year I went, day 2 or so, I was kind of sitting there, and the guys that had goaded me into doing it, I say goaded me because I didn't think I was physically able. I'm a heavy person, and the idea of carrying all my crap up to the side of a mountain and staying out there, I'm a bit of a prude too. So without a bathroom, I was like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this, But they goaded me into it, and I fell for it. I'm usually pretty good with peer pressure, but this was, it was something different. So there I am sitting on the side of a mountain in Missouri in the heat, and my friend says, so you having fun? I said, I'm enjoying this, but it's not fun. There's no part of this is fun, but I am enjoying it. The self-esteem that you get off of doing something like that is just outstanding.
Oh, I bet.
But with all and there's a creek that runs through that everybody that's where you go down to kind of bathe and cool off and stuff. There's a little waterfall, and it's quite naturistic. You have to wear clothes, so we have that kind of a rule.
Sure. So it's like naturistic, just minus 1 or 2 on the notch of naturistic.
Right.
Like a thong, at least.
Yeah, actually,
okay.
Yeah. More than once, it's just been like a gold lame Speedo or something like that. But
candy bar wrapper.
It's a very interesting group, I'll tell you that. But they will haul a small generator up, and they put a sheet up, and then at night we'll watch zombie movies on the side of this mountain, right?
Oh, fun.
Well, it turns out there was oh man, I should have all this information knowledgeable. I apologize.
You know what? If there's anything you want to send me, I'll add it to the show notes. We can go there if you want.
That'll
That's
work.
Cool. Okay.
There was I think it's a Swedish zombie movie called Dead Snow, and what it is, it's zombie Nazis. It's a Swedish.
Oh yeah. Okay, I've actually heard of that.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. It's a bit of a cult film, but it does have some recognition. Well, it turns out that the people that made the first movie discovered Zombie Squad and really, really kind of dug it. So they contacted headquarters and worked it out so that they could have Zombie Squad in the movie. Not any of our members, but some characters that were from Zombie Squad. So
great.
Yeah, so this is kind of a really big deal, and at least for us, we're in a zombie movie that is probably going to get some viewing.
Yeah, for the sequel or for the original?
For the sequel.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they made a sequel called Dead Snow 2: Red vs. Dead, and
awesome.
Some Zombie Squad members that are pivotal characters in the movie.
Right, and let me guess, I'm just going to go out on a limb, but what remained of society had to turn to the Zombie Squad because they knew what the hell to do.
Well, kind of, but not really. It's almost a zombie sort of pirate story. The premise of Dead Snow was some Nazis had a bunch of wealth that they had stored away, and it got stolen. And it's
Nazis.
sort of like Yeah, poor Nazis. It's kind of like the idea, but behind Pirates of the Caribbean, where they were damned until they got all of their booty back.
Yeah,
the coins and stuff. Well, that's the same thing here. These Nazis came back to life looking for this stolen Nazi gold coins, right? And so they go through the first movie, and there's still one left, and they go into the second movie, and some guy, through a hammer smash of incidences, learns about Zombie Squad in the States, and it's Norwegian. It's a Norwegian. I was just looking it up. So I was umming and ahhing there. Sure. It's Norwegian. Learns about them and calls them to come over to Norway and help out.
Oh, so it's a local outbreak only? It's not a worldwide pandemic?
Yep.
Okay, very good.
It's very localized. It's one battalion of zombie Nazis. And so it's a gloriously fun horror movie. It's got some silly gore. It's not Walking Dead level intense gore like season 5 or 6.
Yeah,
it's silly gore. Like, when you look at that, you go, that's gross, but I'm not disturbed.
Right. It's like Bruce Campbell. It's like
Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. It is exactly like that. That level. So they get the movie made. They release the movie. We finally get a copy of it. And, of course, for this backpacking trip that Zombie Squad people go to, it's called ZombieCon. So we watch this movie. And at the end, there's the song Total Eclipse of the Heart is playing. Right?
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you why it's playing because you have to watch the movie.
Fair, and I promise I will do that. It's Halloween month.
Yeah, that works out. That's a great one to put on the list. It's funny. It is actually like a horror comedy. So, and it's not too awful. I don't think there's any real nudity. There's some suggestive ideas.
Hey, I'll watch it anyway.
I'd give it a PG-13 to anyone who's considering checking it out.
Well, maybe I'll put 2 monitors up. I could have porn on one side and Dead Snow on the other, so it'll be fine.
Yeah,
that's the one way I can multitask.
That'll work it.
Yeah.
So, the very first strains of Total Eclipse of the Heart come on, that turn around, bright eyes, right?
Even now and then. Oh, I can't do it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I can't do it because, I don't have copyright here. Okay.
Oh, right. Even what to do there.
Oh,
so there it is. It starts playing on the film, and all of a sudden the whole side of this mountain is divided, and everybody's singing the song. And I'm getting choked up. I'm sitting in my camp chair. I'm self-assessing. I'm looking at my situation. I'm like, I'm sitting on the side of a mountain listening to people from all across the country sing Total Eclipse of the Heart to a zombie movie, and I'm getting choked up. What is going on with my life?
Did people have their cell phones in the air with the swaying back and forth, or maybe
those that still had any charge left in them because I left mine down. There was no signal anyway, so there was no point in having it up there where it could probably get broken.
Well, I can address this right now. You were not wrong, Chris. You had the exact emotional response you should have had in that situation. You were in a group environment. You were sharing a moment. That is the beauty of cinema.
There was at least one Canadian there, but there was people from across the country, people with all different backgrounds and political skews and everything, and we're all together singing this song. And that's the great thing. That can be the great thing about media, is it can bring people together.
Yeah.
Music.
It can go in the sky, and it can obscure the light, and it can bring on a total eclipse of the heart.
Yes, it can.
Well, that's great. Now, it reminded me too that the value of, I think it was Gail Ann Hurd was the producer of The Walking Dead in every movie since Terminator, and she used to work for Roger Corman.
Right.
Huge producer, but she was on WTF, a tiny little podcast that no one's heard about. That's a joke for the podcasting community.
Anyway, I was going to say, I'm like, I think I've heard of that one.
It's huge, but...
And I'm relatively new to other people's podcasts. I've only ever focused on the one that I'm working on.
No, it's gold standard. But she was on recent episode, and she was the host, Mark Maron of that podcast, is not a big horror genre guy, but he wasn't, pooping on it too much. But she said that one of the things that she is most proud of is the CDC called her up and said, we are having a problem getting people to understand what to do in emergency situations. And they won't respond to how to deal with an outbreak, to have the proper materials for catastrophes.
Is she responsible for that?
Well, what happened was she said, sure, we'll help out. So they did a program for the CDC to help the CDC, learn people up in the world of preparedness. So I don't know. I don't want to say she's responsible, but she said, sure, if we can help the CDC to get people involved.
We regularly make that a point whenever we're talking at conventions or doing panels about preparedness, that the CDC has at least they did. They probably have it up again for October. They have a page, about zombies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's the exact reason why we use zombies, is because when you talk to a person, especially like a cold intro, someone who's walked up to your table at a convention, if you start talking to them about, well, each person needs 1 gallon per person per day of water, and you need to consider all the ramifications of having it clean and drinkable, and you need stuff to wash and this and that, everybody glazes over. You get, for the most part, unless you got a real data hound on your hands, or someone who's already into it, they get real bummed with that. But if you pose it to them as, how would you think about a zombie attack? How would you survive a zombie attack? What would you need? Would you be able to stay in your house, or would you have to run away? If you're going to run away, do you have the means to do that? Do you have a plan? So.
Yeah. And the elephant in the room, which is, or was until later seasons of The Walking Dead, the monster actually being other survivors who are looking to take your stuff. And, there is that element there, right? Or there would be.
There would be. We generally don't focus on that that much.
Probably a good move.
Primarily because at that point, it's not preparedness, it's dealing with the existence, So.
Okay. Fair enough. And it's more,
what I mean?
It's more, it's not just surviving, it's survivalism, which is its own thing.
Yeah, because you're talking about a situation where I get to use acronyms. You're dealing with a Teotihuacan situation, which is the end of the world as we know it. Teotihuacan, right?
Whipping out the REM.
Oh yeah, right. And I Feel Fine is usually not everybody's answer to that, unless you're Negan, and then you feel quite fine.
Sure, or you find yourself hiding in a poppy patch.
I don't get that reference because I didn't watch after.
Oh, no. It's something I made up because, you can make stuff out of poppies that you can ingest into your body, and then you would feel fine.
Oh, that's right.
Deep cut. Sorry. No media reference.
Wizard of Oz there.
Sure. Nice.
There was, yeah. Yeah. So, we try to shy away from, on the forums and the websites and stuff, we outrightly ban any discussion about politics or religion. And we try to avoid that kind of stuff in person too, because it's just, there's no win. If you don't agree, it's going to be a fight. If you do agree, then you're talking, you're preaching to the pulpit, as they say.
Right. And you probably get some fringe people who are in it more for the sensationalism versus the actual value of both the preparedness, but also the camaraderie that, would come from being a part of that community.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We have camping trips in April, at least the Chicago chapter, which is the one I belong to. They have 2 annual glamping, like glamour camping, car camping trips, one in April and one in October. So you get to hang out with this community of people. They're wonderful. A significant portion of them were at my wedding.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they're great. They're great people. So you get, the as you say, the camaraderie of that is outstanding. And we look out for each other, especially those of us who go to conventions. We go to a couple of conventions every year in northern Illinois, comic book conventions and science fiction and literature conventions. You know, we have a table set up for people to come up and ask questions, and we keep an eye out because invariably you're going to get a couple of people that are, I'm just going to go to Walmart with a bunch of guns and take over everything. I don't know why I went southern accent with that right away. But
it seemed fitting.
Yeah, it's kind of my go-to, and I feel bad for categorizing people like that. But
don't worry, man, I don't mind.
Well, I was born in Michigan, and it's weird because we have a lot of, you know, when I visit people in Michigan, there's a twang there that if you didn't know any better, you'd think has a touch of Southern in it, and you're like, you're almost as north as you can be, and you're still drawling like, you know, like this, a war shrag, you know.
Sure.
I don't know what I don't study dialects or anything like that, so I don't know if that's just me mixing up dialects or regionalities or whatever, but.
Yeah, it's all. It used to be a big old melting pot, you know. So
I kind of wish it still was. I wish too. Everybody would, you know, just look at it as a. I mean, I'm big on individualism. I mean, for heaven's sakes, I played in sort of a punk band for the past few years, and that puts you in an element of individualistic thinking quite quickly.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of been, that's popular. Well, I'm just not really interested in that, so I'm going to go over here and do this thing.
Sure. And there's more room over here.
There is, which is good because I'm a big guy. I take up space sometimes. But I don't know. I kind of babbled off track, so I don't know where we're going. But
yeah, I think we went down that road. Now, when you and I All right, that was our chat. Thank you for coming. I don't really have a lot prepared to say at the end of this episode. It's been a long weekend, and I know you are all excited about getting to work today or later today. It might not be your Monday. You might be listening to this on Tuesday or way later than that. But anyway, It's all really just a rationalization on my part. I have nothing planned for this outro. I can't really talk too much about what you just heard because you just heard it. And I'm not going to make any callbacks to the beginning of the episode because all that sadness has to be dealt with in real life. You don't really need me to talk about that. I don't know. Anyway, have a great rest of your day. Do visit indeepwithdan.com. Drop me an email at indeepwithdan@gmail.com. Get me some feedback. Let me know what you think. And I'm getting some, and it's great. So let me know what you want. If you know of anyone with whom you would like me to speak on this show, let me know. Let me know how to get in contact with them or have them get in contact with me at that email address. And I would love to get them on the show and talk with them. All right, I will talk to you next week. Have a great rest. I don't want to use the word week again. Have a great rest of your time period. Have a great rest of the interim time period between this episode and the next episode of In Deep.